When an older man speaks with calm certainty, a woman doesn't just hear the words, she feels the weight behind them. And that weight can change everything in a single moment. I'm going to tell you something most younger men don't understand. Attraction is not just about looks, status, or charm. It's about emotional gravity. And older men, when they've done the inner work, naturally carry it. Women are not moved by noise. They're moved by grounded presence. When a mature man says, "I like the way you think," it doesn't sound like flattery. It sounds like evaluation, consideration, selection, and that subtle difference changes how it lands in her nervous system. Younger men often compliment beauty first. Older men, when they understand themselves, compliment essence, energy, character. And when a woman feels seen beyond the surface, something shifts inside her. Here's the psychology. Women are constantly filtered through appearance-based validation. So when a man who feels emotionally stable acknowledges something deeper, her guard lowers. But this only works if the words match the energy. If you're an older man trying to impress, over-explaining, or seeking reassurance, the effect disappears. The power is in calm delivery. No rush, no expectation of reaction. When you say you're more self-aware than most people your age, and then continue the conversation normally, you've planted something powerful. You've framed her as distinct. Framing is influence. Older men often make one critical mistake, though. They assume their age alone creates attraction. It doesn't. Maturity creates attraction, and maturity is emotional regulation, not just years lived. When you speak slowly, when you don't compete for attention, when you listen without interrupting, that communicates stability, and stability feels rare. The first phrase that changes everything is simple. I respect that. Respect from a grounded older man carries different weight because it signals discernment. It says you don't hand out validation freely. It says she earned that acknowledgement. Women respond deeply to earned validation. Another phrase that lands differently is take your time. It signals patience, non-neediness, emotional abundance. Most men rush replies, rush escalation, rush intimacy. An older man who can pause communicates that he's not afraid of silence and he's not desperate for progress. That patience creates safety. And here is where it becomes powerful. Attraction for many women grows strongest in the presence of calm authority, not dominance. Authority, the kind that doesn't need to prove itself. When you say, "I don't chase what doesn't feel mutual," you are not threatening. You are defining standards. Standards create polarity. If you've ever wondered why some women seem more drawn to men who speak less but say meaningful things, this is why. Emotional economy. Precision. When older men say things that reflect lived experience, self-control, and perspective, women sense depth. And depth triggers curiosity. Curiosity leads to emotional investment. But none of these words matter if they come from insecurity. The shift begins internally. If you speak from a place of self-respect rather than performance, your words carry weight, and weight changes everything. There is a difference between a compliment and a calibration. Younger men often compliment to gain approval. Older men, when they are grounded, compliment to express observation. That distinction is everything. When a mature man says you handle pressure well, it doesn't feel random. It feels like he was watching carefully, evaluating quietly, not in a critical way, but in a discerning way. And women are deeply responsive to being observed with calm attention. You have to understand something about female psychology. Many women are used to being noticed, fewer are used to being understood, and almost none are used to being calmly assessed without emotional hunger behind it. When an older man says, "You're not as guarded as you pretend to be," and says it gently, it lands differently. It suggests emotional intelligence. It suggests experience. Experience is attractive because it implies emotional safety. But here's where most men get it wrong. They try to replicate phrases without embodying the mindset. Words without congruence feel hollow. Women sense it immediately. The second thing older men say that changes everything is simple but powerful. I'm not impressed easily. That sentence shifts the dynamic. It reframes you from pursuer to selector. And when you follow it with, "But I appreciate authenticity," you've just created a subtle challenge. Now she wants to be authentic. Now she wants to show depth. That's polarity. Older men who understand this don't oversell themselves. They don't inflate stories. They don't compete with younger energy. They remain composed. When you say, "I've learned to value peace over drama," you communicate boundaries without hostility. Boundaries are attractive because they signal self-worth. And here's a deeper layer most men miss: tonality. When an older man lowers his voice slightly, slows his cadence, and holds steady eye contact while speaking, the message carries more weight than the words themselves. It's not about sounding dominant. It's about sounding certain. Certainty calms her nervous system, and a calm nervous system is more open to connection. Another phrase that shifts everything is, "You don't need to impress me." Think about how rare that feels. Many women grow up navigating performance, socially, professionally, emotionally. When a man removes that pressure, it creates relief. Relief creates openness, but only if you mean it. If you secretly still need validation from her, she'll feel the contradiction. The psychology here is subtle. When you project that you are choosing her, not chasing her, your words land as grounded appreciation rather than flattery. Older men who have done their inner work say less, but mean more. They don't over-text. They don't over-explain. They don't over-promise. When you say, "I prefer actions over talk," and you demonstrate consistency, trust builds faster. Trust builds attraction over time. And when you say, "I like the way you carry yourself," instead of "you're hot," you elevate the interaction. You're acknowledging presence, not just appearance. Presence is identity-based. Appearance is surface level. Women feel the difference. And here's the quiet truth. When an older man speaks from emotional discipline rather than ego, he activates something deeper than excitement. He activates admiration. Admiration is the foundation of long-term desire. Because excitement fades, admiration grows. When your words reflect restraint, clarity, and self-control, you stop sounding like every other man competing for attention. You start sounding rare, and rarity changes everything. There is a moment in every interaction where a woman silently decides how she feels about you, not logically, not consciously, emotionally. And older men who understand themselves know how to influence that moment without force. When a mature man says, "I don't rush good things," it does something subtle. It reframes time. It signals that connection is not a race, that intimacy is something to build, not chase. Most men try to accelerate attraction. They push for labels, push for clarity, push for momentum. But pressure collapses tension. Tension needs space. When you say calmly, "Let's see where this goes," without anxiety behind it, you communicate abundance. You communicate that you are not clinging to an outcome. Outcome independence is magnetic. Here's another phrase that shifts everything. "I've made enough mistakes to know what matters now." That line carries weight because it signals growth, not perfection. Growth. Women are not looking for flawless men. They're drawn to men who have faced themselves, corrected themselves, and evolved. Self-awareness is rare, and rarity attracts. But there's something even deeper happening beneath the surface. When an older man says, "I value consistency," he's not just stating a preference. He's communicating emotional stability. He's saying, "I don't run hot and cold. I don't create chaos. I don't disappear when things get uncomfortable." For many women, especially those who have experienced emotional unpredictability, that steadiness feels grounding. Grounded energy feels safe. And safety, when paired with strength, builds desire. Now listen carefully. One of the most powerful things an older man can say is, "I don't compete. I observe." That sentence alone shifts dynamics. It signals confidence without arrogance. It communicates that you are not threatened by other men, that you don't need to posture or prove. Insecurity is loud, security is quiet. When you refuse to compete for attention, you position yourself differently. You become the standard, not the contestant. Another phrase that lands deeply is, "You deserve someone who knows what they want." If you say that with calm conviction, you're subtly implying that you are that person, without declaring it, without forcing it. Implied strength is more powerful than announced strength. And then there's this: "I don't argue to win. I talk to understand." In a world where so many interactions feel combative, That statement feels refreshing. It signals emotional maturity. Mature communication reduces emotional chaos, and women are deeply sensitive to chaos. Even if they don't verbalize it, their nervous system reacts to it. An older man who remains composed during disagreement stands out instantly, not because he's older, but because he's regulated. Emotional regulation is attractive because it creates predictability without boredom. And finally, when a mature man says softly, "I enjoy your company," and then leaves it there, no pressure, no expectation, it feels sincere. Sincerity is rare. When words are simple but intentional, they carry more emotional weight than dramatic declarations. Older men who have done inner work understand that attraction grows in the space between words, in pauses, in eye contact, in subtle smiles. They don't flood the interaction. They don't oversell. They allow her to lean in. And when she leans in voluntarily, desire feels self-generated. That is the real shift. It's not about saying the perfect line. It's about speaking from grounded identity. And grounded identity changes everything. Now here is the part most men are not ready to hear. The reason certain words from older men change everything is not because of the words, it's because of what those words represent. They represent emotional self-control. They represent lived experience. They represent a man who has nothing to prove. When a mature man says, "I'm selective with my time," he is communicating value without announcing status. Time is the one resource you cannot recover. When you guard it calmly, you signal that your life is full, structured, and intentional. That feels powerful. When you say, "I don't entertain confusion," you are not being rigid. You are defining standards, and standards are deeply attractive because they signal self-respect. Self-respect creates polarity. Women do not respond long-term to men who bend their principles for approval. They respond to men who can appreciate them without losing themselves. One of the most transformative statements an older man can say is simple: "I'm content with who I am." Contentment radiates. It removes comparison. It removes competition. It removes insecurity. And insecurity is what drains attraction faster than almost anything else. If your words come from a place of needing her reaction, she will feel it. But if your words come from grounded acceptance of yourself, they land differently. Now understand this equation carefully. Attraction equals stability plus mystery plus standards. Stability without mystery becomes boring. Mystery without stability becomes chaotic. Standards without warmth become cold. Older men who change everything have learned to balance all three. When you say, "I enjoy depth over surface," you communicate intention. You signal that you are not there for distraction. You are there for substance. Substance builds emotional gravity, and gravity pulls, but here's the final shift. The most powerful thing an older man can say is not even directed at her, it's how he speaks about himself. If you speak about your past without bitterness, if you speak about women without resentment, if you speak about life without complaint, you signal evolution, and evolution is attractive. Women are highly attuned to emotional tone. If your tone carries calm confidence rather than hidden frustration, she feels safe leaning closer. The difference between a man who ages and a man who matures is reflection. Aging is automatic. Maturity is chosen. And when your words reflect maturity, they don't just sound different. They feel different. They feel steady. They feel intentional. They feel rare. Now I want you to think honestly. When you speak to women, are your words coming from need or from grounded identity? Here's your personal equation. Connection equals self-respect plus emotional control plus clear intent. Which of those three are you strongest in right now? And which one are you neglecting? Tell me in the comments which one you need to strengthen and why. If this shifted how you see yourself even slightly, like the video, subscribe and share this with a friend who keeps wondering why his words don't land the way he wants them to. Because sometimes it's not what you say, it's who you are when you say it.